Righto, let's transition into some NRL chat here. We have another week of Kiwi-NRL finals footy, and we're starting with the Seagulls versus the Rabbitohs. I'm all about the Seagulls here, wildcard, just for the narrative and the journey. Although, two Rabbitohs notes: Jackson Paulo, Northcote Tigers Jr., quietly emerging as like an Aotearoa Kiwis contender at the very least. And he's someone who he moved to Gold Coast early in his teenage years, but he had all his all his rep teams in New Zealand, like age group stuff. So he does seem keen, which is good starting point. And then Benji Marshall. The Benji Marshall thing, though, is that when the Rabbitohs are playing a good team, Benji Marshall plays less minutes. So like last week, he only played, like, it was literally 20 minutes. It was like to the dot, 20 minutes. And it was hard and fast, get on into the middle of the field, have a few passes, don't really run the footy, defend next to Adam Reynolds, get off the field. And that's literally all he did. But that's cool. That's Benji Marshall in his Kaumatua days. But don't expect him to be playing more like 30 minutes in a role where he's not a middle ball playing forward who doesn't defend as a middle forward, which is an amazing role for a rugby league player to have. And it's quintessentially Benji Marshall's. The Seagulls, the homie, Morgan Harper, bit of a journey. Bad start versus the Storm. Good game next up against who did they play? The Roosters. And now what the fuck's he going to do against the Rabbitohs left edge? The Rabbitohs left edge is arguably the best attacking edge in the NRL. But Harper's narrative is kind of just matched by the Seagulls, and like whether it's Trbojevic, whether it's Daddy Cherry Evans, whether it's Jake Trbojevic, whether it's Kieran Foran on the left edge, Josh Alawai and Marty Tapau up the guts. Crappy game against the Storm, good game against the Roosters. And the other thing here with the Seagulls is just the balance. So you got Morgan Harper on the right edge, but then you've got Kieran Foran defending on the left edge. So both Rabbitohs edges are going to be attacking a Kiwi player at some stage, but that is dependent on Josh Alawai and Marty Tapau at the middle. So if they win the middle, then it's going to help out Harper and Foran on the edges, and that has me really intrigued about Josh Alawai. Marty Tapau, veteran, we know what he does, excellent up the guts. Alawai, first season with the Seagulls, has found a bit of a niche as just a really good middle forward for the Seagulls that goes overlooked. And apart from him leaving the Tigers where Michael Maguire was Kiwis coach, Alawai is also moving into Kiwis contention. He's already represented Samoa. And Dean and Kemp on the Bloke in the Bar, he reckons that Alawai and Paul Gallen are going to have a boxing fight as well. So I am intrigued about Josh Alawai. Is a really good boxer. Like he's already had professional fights, not professional, amateur. And he's a serious boxer. Let's say that he's serious. He has had a fight as the West Tigers NRL player. So that's already happened. So Alawai up the middle is going to be really interesting against that Rabbitohs forward pack. What are you thinking here, Wildcard? I'm just curious about how you view some of those Kiwi-NRL storylines. Specifically, we've got a chat about Harper coming up against the Rabbitohs left edge, I think, as well. But just wherever you find an interesting nugget.
Yeah, Joshua Alawai as a boxer is a pretty interesting nugget. 6'2", 106 kgs according to the player profile. So that stacks up. That's decent for a boxer. Good. Don't know what his reach is, but it's good size. Good. Good stocks. The Kiwi NRL sort of narrative definitely trends towards from the sounds of it, definitely trends towards the Manly Seagulls having a big result, and the trajectory that guys like Harper, as you say, have been on during this, for him during the course of the whole season, but like his big breakout year. But
well, it's kind of
even just over the last two games, playoffs.
It's like they had bad first week, good second week, third week bad, so it could be terrible. Like as much as I love Morgan Harper and all the Seagulls players, coming up against the Rabbitohs, like it could literally be terrible just how the finals have played out.
It could be. That's the beauty of finals football, isn't it? And the Rabbitohs, they had the week off last week, didn't they? As a top 4 seed who won in round 1, and won really impressively against Penrith Panthers too. So, like the way they did that, it's not the same as what Manly got blown out by, where the way the Storm did them in that round 1. That's a little more expansive, a little more like razzle dazzle. Not that the Storm don't do the grindy stuff as well. It's just that they'll like blow you out after they do that. They'll wear you down and then rip you to pieces. The Rabbitohs didn't do that against the Panthers, but it was one of them Wayne Bennett masterclassy type things. He's probably, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult one to see, like because you have pinpointed that, like the edge there and what Harper's up against, and like there's ways in which this seems like I don't even know if it's that the matchup is bad. It's more just like the matchups that involve the Kiwi guys are really crucial. It's not like they could be really bad for some of those Seagulls guys in particular. Like it could go the wrong way, but it's not that like it's an obvious weakness that will be exploited. It's a little more just like this is where the game may be decided. It seems, the narrative definitely feels like it's trending towards the Seagulls just because a couple of them guys, Harper, old Marty, and et cetera, like will be quite influential in that. But I guess the flip side of that is that it also, if they lose, could be Benji Marshall's last game of professional rugby league potentially. So there's that sort of fairy tale finish on the line as well, which makes it quite like, I don't know. I don't know where we're supposed to sit other than just like sitting deep in the chair and enjoying the spectacle, I guess.
That's the thing, like we're not necessarily supporting, it's just Kiwi-NRL. We're just here to enjoy the footy. I can see a situation where Benji Marshall leads the Rabbitohs to a premiership. Like that does not.
I could see it. Yeah,
it doesn't seem like a stretch. So it's a realistic type of situation. If things happen, like if there's like another injury, or because you never know. Like what I said about Marshall's usage under Wayne Bennett. Wayne Bennett also knows Benji Marshall extremely well, so he knows big game. We might need Benji Marshall to put in, because I think he was getting like 20 minutes, but that's 25 minutes in. So it's kind of pegged either side of half time. Wayne Bennett, having coached the 2008 Kiwis to a World Cup assistant coach, but World Cup win, he might think, Benji Marshall, we need you for 20 minutes in the second half. And if that happens, and he helps the Rabbitohs win, that's going to be just as good as watching a Seagulls team full of Kiwi-NRL players win. Same thing, Storm Panthers. It's just that James Fisher-Harris doesn't have the razzle-dazzle Benji Marshall mana. He's got a different mana, which is all physical brutality up the guts. Storm versus Panthers wildcard. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a inkling what's going to happen? We can get into some Kiwi-NRL nuggets, but I'm curious, just as a matchup of two really good sports teams who have been at the top of their games for a long time now, how do you just view that contest as a game of footy?
Well, it's like these would have been the two favorite teams before the season started. Give or take the Roosters, but like the Roosters, I mean, they got wrecked all season through injuries. But even still, like from the start, I think you probably would have to lean towards certainly once you get a few weeks in and you start seeing the toll that some of the Roosters. I'm not sure exactly when that started. I don't know who the first domino to fall was in the ongoing Roosters injury / even retirement in a couple cases, more than a couple cases, which is pretty weird. I don't know. I don't know where that started, but like the Panthers and the Storm have been running the show since week one. And I don't think the Storm have let up whatsoever. I think the Storm have continued the entire way. I mean, they had, what was it, like a 19-game win streak or something? Maybe more that's been taken for granted a little bit. The Penrith Panthers have had a couple of slides along the way. There was a stretch where Cleary was injured, and obviously they lost week one of the finals as well. I mean, the Rabbitohs versus Seagulls is very much like two teams who, not necessarily like, because I think that's pretty rude to the Storm if I say those are the two form teams. But they are two teams, like, because the Storm have been winning throughout, but and the Penrith Panthers have been mostly winning throughout. But the Rabbitohs and the Seagulls seem to be like two teams that sort of definitely timed their run quite nicely, with the exception of their Manly getting munted by Melbourne in week one of the finals. But like, there's an interest. I don't know. There's two interesting matchups there. Was like the teams that are on similar trajectories are meeting in the semifinals on each side, and that makes this one. I think it feels like the Storm should be favorites because they haven't had sort of the hiccups along the way. They seem like, I'm not sure if I think I can check what they did. Yes, I can. In round 20, the Storm won 37-10, and in round 3, the Panthers won 12-10, which I think was, the Storm would have only lost once since then, which would have been when the streak got broken, which is nuts. But like, they both ended the season on 44 points. There you go. So because of Melbourne dropping the first two games, I think like this is a roundabout way of saying, I think the Storm probably will be perceived as favorites, but I suspect it's a lot closer. Like I can see this as a coin toss. I don't think necessarily that their previous meetings have been entirely reflective of where they are at right now. I think even the playoff journeys of getting to where they are maybe aren't quite reflective. I think that goes for the Seagulls as well. I don't see that week one loss as being something that's like hampering them anyway. I think it was just a bad day at the office, which they've overcome now at this point. I lean towards the Storm, but I think that is a game, as both of these are, and that's really all you can ask for coming into your preliminary finals, is they seem very evenly matched between two teams that seem to have a lot of similarities in how they got to where they are. So like that's it's kind of perfect. It's kind of perfect for the stage of the season, especially a season where so many people have been like sounding off about how how big all the victories have been, and like winning teams are just blowing out non-winning teams. And there was always the one response to that is like, well, wait till you get to the finals and see what happens when like evenly matched teams are playing. And this feels exactly like that. Next thing you know, one team will probably win by 40. I don't know which one it'll be, but like, it's certainly a nicely poised semifinal. Both of them, but I think this one in particular because it encompasses the entire season from week one to where we are now. Melbourne versus Penrith. I'm hesitant to even guess, but because of the excessive Kiwi-NRL presence on the Storm, I suppose I got to lean that way. They're a team that we talk about a lot as well because they're a team that does things very well. But I'm just looking forward to watching it, man.
And to bring in the Panthers element of the Kiwi-NRL element, it's going to be Fisher Harris versus Jesse Bromwich in a Sofa Mona. Like,
oh yes,
that doesn't get any better as far as up the guts footy goes, and stylistically as well, because you got Jesse Bromwich. He is fantastic at like the catch and wrestle. I'll like just going through some Storm detail stuff, like that is Jesse Bromwich's strength. It's not necessarily big meters or offloads anymore, or tackle busts or post-contact meters. He earns selection every week through leadership, and I'd imagine doing a lot of the mahi that the Storm want done in the middle. So that means Jesse Bromwich Hitting Fisher Harris up top, wrestle, control, put him on his back, win that ruck. And then you've got a Sofa Solomona. If you just watch a Sofa Solomona defending around the ruck, you'll see a rugby union lock chopping blokes down around the ankles, which is really fun to watch. I enjoy it. And it stands out every time. You just see this massive human swinging around an ankle and you're like, a Sofa Solomona's got him. So that battle in the middle is going to be fascinating. Couple of nuggets here just on Bromwich and a Sofa Solomona. A Sofa Solomona has scored at least 4 tries with at least 20 offloads for 5 consecutive seasons, which shows his skill and his size and stature to be able to offload. If you're that big, you should be scoring tries close to the line, and that's all reflected in that stat. Jesse Bromwich has not missed 50 or more tackles ever in his 12 NRL seasons. So 12 NRL seasons, and he has never missed more than 50 tackles in a season. And in the last 9 seasons, he has not missed more than 50 tackles while also averaging over 100 meters. So if you just say, here's a forward who for 9 years in a row, you can have him for 9 years in a row, he's going to average 100 meters and he'll never miss more than 50 tackles in a season. Most teams would say, yep, sign me up. I want that guy in my team. And it's just reliability and being able to do the job, which is what the Storm are about. Couple more gems here. Remus Smith is tackling at 91.81%. 3 years with the Bulldogs, his best tackling season was 82%. So that's a 10% increase in tackling efficiency for entering the Storm system. That's to be expected. And then Kenny Bromwich, it's all about his attacking plays on the left edge. Kenny Bromwich will be the decoy runner, and he'll also be the guy getting the ball out the back of the decoy run as a playmaker. No, not many other edge forwards are going to do that. They're either going to run that hard line and catch a short ball, card it up, or they will run the decoy. You're not going to see your edge forward out the back of a decoy selecting which pass to do. And Kenny Bromwich does it really well. Brandon Smith, we all know what he does. The only thing I'd say about Brandon Smith is coming off a almost facial fracture. Does that impact his footy in any way? Or does it impact how Craig Bellamy uses him in any way? Could he come off the bench? Could he start but play fewer minutes? What kind of impact is he going to have? And then you get into some of these Panthers matchups where Brandon Smith averages 101 meters per game. But his 2 games against the Panthers wildcard, he's only had 88 meters and 80 meters. And in both games against the Panthers, he has missed 3 tackles. So dramatically or not, his season average run meters decreases, and he also has 3 missed tackles in both games. So that combined with a bit of an injury, fascinated to see how Brandon Smith goes, because if it's a big game, Brandon Smith usually steps up, as we've seen 600 and probably 700 days ago when the Kiwis played Tonga in Australia and those games happened. And we had the joy of watching Brandon Smith play rugby league for New Zealand, something that we haven't seen since. And same goes with Winston Reid and any other All White and any other Kiwis player.
And any Tall Ferns player as well. So
correct.
I'm just thinking what it takes to miss 50 tackles in a season. If you're a team like the Storm who are making the playoffs every year, always playing finals footy, I'm assuming that probably counts towards the stats. In which case, yes, he would have missed a few games with injury or maybe even suspension now and then, but that probably balances out as not very much more than 2 tackles missed per game over the course of a season, which it doesn't take a lot to miss 2 tackles and to average something below that rate for 9 seasons in a row is like astounding. Like that's like 3 exclamation marks on the end of that stat.
Well, 12 seasons in the NRL, I think I said. And he has
12?
played,
There you go.
he has played less than 20 games in just 2 seasons.
Yeah.
The first he played 7 games, and then 2020 last year he played 19 games. And then there are 1, 2, 3 games with 27 games, which is probably grand final time, or just a lot of games. And he's got to go 22, 27, 26, 24, 26, 27, 23, 20, 27, 19, 23. It's a lot of fucking games in 12 years. And if you're playing that many games, you're making a lot of tackles as well. So in theory, you should be missing at least 50. But when you're tackling at 92.5% this season, that's probably why you're not missing many tackles.
And we also were talking about him a couple of weeks ago on the podcast as well, weren't we? About how, like, because I think he was, I don't know if it was a record, like the fastest person to 200 career wins or something. It might have just been that it was his 200th career win. But like, he's done that in fewer than 300 games. I can't remember what it was. You've probably got it there. It was like 270 or something, wasn't it?
271.
271 games, and he's won more than 200 of those. Like
74 win percent.
Yeah, Jesus. Like, I think the only player we could think of when we talked about it last time who might have come close was Jared Wairau-Hargreaves. But like even for him, like the Roosters have had 1 or 2 down years in his time there. Like they've had a couple of seasons where for whatever reason they missed the playoffs or just had an even like something close to 50% win record and maybe scraped in 7th or 8th or something. But that has never happened for the Storm while Jesse Bromwich has been there. Like they've just been consistently a top team and winning games, winning in excess of games every single season is nuts.
So he's only gone below, well, he's had 50% win rate, 54% and 58% only twice. And that was 2014, 2015. Everything else, 86, 82, 74, 62, 54, 58, 78, 91, 65, 78, 89, 87 win percent. So he doesn't lose. He's never had a losing season.
Yeah. Like never had a losing season. That's mental. I suspect Melbourne, I mean, they probably have to be the overall favourites for the title, especially having gotten this far in the season they've had. They are defending champions, and they did also win in 2017. When did Manly? Manly have made a couple. Manly's last win actually was when they beat the Warriors, wasn't it? A decade ago in the grand final. Souths have won one since. Penrith 2003. So I always, when you get to the stage of the season, I always start to think about like how like legacies work and who's gonna add that kind of thing. Which team maybe is the most deserving from a narrative perspective. I'm struggling to think of one this time.
It's always a good narrative with the Storm. Lots of Kiwis,
exactly.
All Blacks,
even though they're defending champs.
Extravagant footy, gritty footy. Foundations of Kiwi players. Beautiful. Can't go wrong. Then you've got Seagulls. Then Fisher Harris. I love Benji. Love Fisher Harris.
Yeah, you go.
Just here for
you
the
can make
footy.
a case the whole way through.
Yeah, for sure, damn sure. But it's Kiwi-NRL footy, and we just love the footy, and we love Aotearoa sport, and we're here to chat about Aotearoa sport, and that's what we've done.